Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Listen, hola, boa tarde from me, Carl Munson, on the Good Morning Portugal show here with a very special Portugal Club recording. Now, you may have seen my interview with Amelie in Caldeirência, and the name Joy Goldman came up during that conversation as a founding influence, and I'll find out if Joy likes to be referred to that in that way or not in just a moment. But it's a real pleasure on this beautiful, balmy summer afternoon here in Portugal to be having a conversation with Joy, whose work has inspired me so much, and I'm looking forward to having an informative and sharing the inspiring work she's been doing with you now. So I think we're going to give her a nice big round of applause and bring her onto the screen. Rapturous applause for Joy Goldman in Setúbal this afternoon. How about that?
That's exciting. That's the best applause I've gotten in quite a while. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad, Joy. Thank you for joining me and agreeing to being interviewed. And your name came up, as I said there, in conversation with Amelie as a founding influence. And now I don't know how you prefer to be referred to when it comes to the work you're doing with aging and dying, living, aging and dying, and now growing, living, aging and dying. And Vamos Bem, there are various titles that are being bandied around at the moment. But how do you see yourself in the scheme of things as being an influence in that?
Yeah, so titles have never been something that I've latched onto. However, people in my steering team call me chairwoman.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to the website vamosbem.pt, that's what you'll find. Great. And yeah, so that's fine. That works.
That works. And it also doesn't tell the complete picture, if I may be so bold, because when we had a conversation before this recording, I thought I knew the part you played in this, and I was really taken by the stories you told me of how this came to be. You know, the personal side of things and the things that you've been through with people to bring this work to where it is today. Would you mind recapping on some of those and sharing how it came about that you started what I think it's fair to say it is known as the Aging and Dying Project, yeah, in origin?
Yes, yeah. So it started out as the Setúbal Community for Aging and Dying Well, and we'll get into later perhaps it spread, and Amelie's certainly validation of that. And it started with a woman's story whose name is was Juliet, and she moved here in March of 2023 to Setúbal on her own at the bright age of 82.
Amazing.
And yeah, bless her. And we had met, she and my husband, when she was doing a scouting trip. And so I knew her peripherally. And then later that year, it became evident that she had a reoccurrence of cancer that would ultimately take her life. And myself and another immigrant from here, who is a retired physician, went to see her at her apartment. And it was very clear that she needed hospice care, but we didn't know how to get that here.
Yeah.
But what we were able to do is get from her, before she could no longer speak, login information for her phone and her computer. We found out what some of her favorite poetry was, her favorite music, if she had a mantra that was peaceful for her, an aroma. And then I was able to find on her computer a advance directive from the United States. She did not have one from Portugal.
Wow.
And I took screenshots, and that's what I ended up giving the emergency room docs when we got her to the emergency room. And what is such a tribute to Setúbal and our community here is, despite her only being here a short while, people who did not even know her, at least once a day, someone went and sat by her side so that she would not die alone. And she lasted about 3 weeks. She died later in September. But every day people read comments, they read her poetry, they put on frankincense, which was the aroma she wanted. And as I mentioned to you, I was able to tell her that what happened to her inspired us to make sure that we can do things so that no one will die alone.
Wonderful. Absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
And I was aware that the work you and the folks around you in Setúbal have been doing, are doing, was incredible. But then to hear that personal angle on this is Juliet's legacy in a way, isn't it?
Yes.
We're talking about today. And if you hadn't done that, the end of her life would have been very, very different by the sound of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that what do we call it? An intervention or thoughtfulness, really. That realization of what might be compared to what would inevitably be as a foreigner dying in Portugal are so vastly different, and maybe that's something we can talk about as well. And it must have been quite a shock, the scale of it once you started. I mean, presumably you start with a couple of things like, what fragrances and poetry you would like, and then suddenly
Right.
there's all these other things to think about and take care of as well, right?
Yes. And I think, Carl, what hit all of us is regardless of whether we are now partnered or not, this could be any one of us, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, how are we prepared? Who knows how to get into our phone and our laptop and where important documents are and all those things that we tend to put off because who likes thinking about them?
Yes.
And yet it's so critical when something like this happens.
Yes, yes, and it prompted a movement, I think, that is evolving as we speak, and has been very special to people. Well, I think because it's been positioned and spoken about so beautifully by you and the people around you in Setúbal and Amelie. And it's very interesting to me how, on the one hand, that whole level of security that is designed for our protection around computers can work against us ultimately in that way, and that's why it's vitally important, isn't it, to make sure these details are available to people
Yes.
you trust. But also that other realization that you touched on there is how things are different here in Portugal compared to how we imagine them to be or expect them to be,
Yes.
because that comes as a bit of a rude awakening, doesn't it? Why wouldn't people assume that things are just the same as their country of origin? But that assumption can be quite punishing in a way, can't it? And difficult for those left behind who are dealing with the situation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So part of what we've done is research around, so how do you do an advance directive
Yes.
for Portugal so that your end of life wishes are known? What do you do in case of emergency? How do you tap into the emergency care system? How do you make it known even who you are should you not be able to speak for yourself? So all those things are, and how is that managed here?
Yes. And all of that information, it became apparent that all of that information needed to be collated, understood. And now, where, as you said, where people realize, whoa, that could be me,
Yeah.
whether I'm in a partnership or not, many of these things still apply. That could be me.
Yes.
We really need to take care of this. So, how did you do that? How did you organize yourselves to make this more of a formality rather than a coincidence or an accident, really?
Yeah. So we had an initial team, and part of the initial team's work was around creating a in case of emergency checklist. So things like who has your keys? Do you have pets?
Mm.
And what's the name of your vet and contact information? What about financial power of attorney? So all these things to think about. And then also we did research, how do you complete an advance directive? And we put those documents on a Facebook community that's called the Setúbal Community for Aging and Dying Well. And um, and some people were satisfied with that. I was not. And because I think this is a larger issue. And part of my background is nursing, but it's also, I took care of my mom for the
Right.
last 8 years of her life. And I'm very passionate about how people die and how they have their wishes known. And as you so wisely said when we were talking, and you cannot talk about how you die without talking about how you live,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
So
oh,
anyway, so it seemed like a larger vision for me.
and could you go in more into that distinction of how some people say, "Okay, we've done it now," and you were, "Well, we kind of have," but there's. Could you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah. So part of my background is leadership development, systems work. So, and we we are newbies to Portugal,
Right.
right? So we don't want to interrupt, we don't want to intrude, we want to fit within what currently exists
Right.
and improve if we can in some
Yes.
way.
Yes.
So, looking at, all right, so what are those services that cater to people as they age? What's home care look like? How do you get durable medical equipment? How do one of the workshops we're working on is how do you complete a Portuguese will so
Yes.
that your assets are taken care of?
Yeah.
Um, how do you even in a country and culture, and this is the same in the United States, people don't talk about death,
Right.
right? When people start talking about it, the knee jerk response is, oh, we don't want to go to that negative place.
Yeah.
Well, you sort of do need to if you want people to honor your wishes, and you need to think of these things beforehand. Even when you do an advance directive, how do you choose who to put as your healthcare agent,
Yes.
right? Who can speak for you? So I put out a request to see if anyone wanted to be on a steering team, and some brave souls said yes. And so we brought people together, and that's what has evolved. And we now have a website
Well, that
thanks
is
to a
quite
lot of
amazing.
work. Yeah, it's so amazing.
Yes. Let me just give people a quick a preview of that. This is
Yeah.
incredible work, Joy. Congratulations to you and your steering team and everybody who's played a part in this. This is an incredible development and I think, a rapid development since the discovery that you made and being involved in the end of Juliet's life. Things have come on a long way and very quickly and quite comprehensively, I think here. So we'll come back to the website because that's really the state of the art at the moment, isn't it? Where how people can be involved and see what work's being done. But if
Yes.
I may, I just want to dwell with how this works because the conversation I think you've referred to is yes, oh, okay, yeah, that is an interesting subject, but I don't really want to talk about it. Or wow, that's a great idea, but I don't want to talk about it. How how has that been? Because I imagine a lot of people do want to. Okay, if I'm going to talk about this, I just want this to be a service. Presumably, I can just have an appointment with a lawyer or somebody like that, get it all sorted out in a couple of hours. It really isn't like that, is it?
No, there's a lot of thought that
Yes.
needs to go into it, right? I
Yes.
mean, um, anyway, so some of the examples of things we've offered something called Death Over Dinner. And there's actually a website where you yeah, so that it could either be a murder mystery, but it's not.
Yes.
Uh, what it actually is a semi-structured dinner that's intimate with maybe 6 to 8 people. And there are questions around death, related to death.
Right.
And there are some movies, podcasts, readings that you can use to sort of break the ice, but it's a way to get people talking about their life experience, how have they encountered death in their lives. Some people have not a whole lot, right? So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so anyway, and so it breaks the ice, and then you can also choose from that to have accountability partners who can help you sit down and do some of these things that you keep putting off.
Hmm.
And so it's a way to connect people in a safe, confidential way where you're dealing with something very vulnerable.
Yes, absolutely. And have you seen a change in people? Because I'm guessing people might want to access those very practical matters of emergency directives and what happens to them towards the end of their life, and the will. That's quite a practical and pragmatic matter, and for sure should be taken care of, because people are quite surprised often, I think, how their assumption about how their will might be honored isn't necessarily the case
Right.
as- until they've wired it that way and had that made explicit. Are you finding that in opening up the conversation and being a stand, if you like, for talking about it rather than ignoring it and getting things in order, people are responding in kind and become more inquisitive as things unfold for them?
Yes, for some, right? I mean, it's a readiness thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yes,
people, even when we offered the workshop on advanced directives, I mean, some people immediately signed up and we're ready. We're ready to fill out the paper. Other
yes.
people's are curious and still haven't done it yet, right?
Okay.
So people are all at different points in their readiness. And so what I love about what Emily's doing, there's Torsten and Kashkaish, is, it's like Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. We
Yes.
hope that, with each little step, at some point, we might reach a critical mass and it will become a more comfortable part of the culture. But we are just at the beginning.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And on that note, for those people who just boldly step forward and say, "Oh my goodness, this is what I've been waiting for. This makes so much sense to me. I'm glad people are talking about it. I want to grasp this nettle, as it were, and talk about things and get things organized." How how do you help them? Because I imagine you get a lot of requests. You've got your own project in your own geographical locality, and you, like a lot of brilliant ideas, you could be pulled away from your geographical center and also spend a lot of personal time and energy helping people elsewhere in the country. How is that being managed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what we actually evolved the website to be, instead of us doing, so the biblical quote about you can um, give a man a fish or you can teach him how to fish, right? And feed him
Yes.
for a lifetime. So on the website, you'll find tools like Meal Train that we've used in a variety of ways to help coordinate things like getting meals delivered for people who were either temporarily or permanently homebound,
Right.
arrange transportation to medical appointments. We had a GoFundMe campaign, I think, for one person to raise money,
Yes.
um, grocery shopping, taking care of pets. So, all of that, thanks to Diane Bassett's creativity, we can arrange through MealTrain. So, we can help people learn that so that if something happens in their neighborhood, they can create one for themselves, very low cost.
Okay.
There's Caring Bridge, where you can have messages and coordinate communication. So those resources are out there. I think it might be under like what you can do. Um,
Yes. Well,
yeah.
the website address we'll give, Vamos Bem, Go Well, which is a lovely double meaning to it, I think, there, Joy. .pt. We're looking at the
Yes.
mission page there. And
Yes.
I suppose it's fair to say there are kind of generic resources so that wherever people find themselves in Portugal, they might have the beginnings of accessing help that they would
Yeah.
never have found out about before, if not for
Yeah.
your amazing work here and how this has come together on the website. And for those curious to start something in their own area, the beginnings of that. It's a seed, isn't it? Here,
Yes.
okay, that they can pick up and run with.
Yeah. And so we have little pride and ownership here. We want this to spread and
Great.
we want people to replicate it, and because we really believe in the power of community. And as
Yes,
you and I have spoken, when it seems perhaps that those in government may have some challenges
indeed.
to figure out, there's lots of power in community support
Abs-
and what
Yeah.
we can do for each other. And
Yes.
so some people in Portugal might remember April 28th this year, where we lost power, not only us, right, but France, Spain, and us.
Yes.
And so that inspired us to begin thinking about how can we create within neighborhoods communication trees. Where are we going to meet? Who's a vulnerable person that might need to be checked on?
Yeah.
Because it can happen again, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do we organize so that we can take care of each other?
And that's the bigger blessing here, isn't it? Is what it's brought about, because it seemed to be about something quite specific, and the whole thing of being something quite specific that we might not want to talk about. But clearly, people have found a great deal of connection and joy in this whole work of how we can help each other, which is a beautiful outcome.
Yes. And so I also want to tip my hat to Portugal, right? Because Portugal is known for their kindness,
Mm,
their family orientation. I mean, when I first moved here, I would take all these pictures of people walking hand in hand or arm in arm and helping each other.
mm,
And so my thinking was there's a culture that already exists here.
yeah.
So all we need to do is build on that and
Yes.
tap into that. And so that's a tribute to the Portuguese and Portugal, and certainly our community.
It does seem a very Portuguese thing you're doing here, really. The parallels are there, aren't they? And I think I've realised this more recently, is that Portugal is a very friendly country, but it's also quite private. And it's when something is needed that people's real kindness and generosity and joy comes forward, as you can see at this time of year. There's a
Yes.
pressure to be organized. Let's do it. Vamos embora. It's amazing, isn't it? That community spirit. And I think you've really tapped into
Yes.
that or evoked that with the work that you're doing. And as we
Yeah.
begin to conclude our conversation here, if I may just read out your mission and vision here, which I think helps
Please.
people to really understand what you're doing here. I think people, a lot of people really get it very quickly. But let's elaborate. We support those living in Portugal to age and die well, with the emphasis on well, with dignity and peace of mind. We provide compassionate support, unwavering advocacy, and meaningful engagement to foster a strong community that honors each individual's health journey. That's wonderful. That's the mission. The vision to be a model community that supports its residents with loving care, exceptional resources, and timely action so they may age well and die with serenity. Very beautiful. And the values revolve here around community, compassion, courage, respect, and action. These are the key words. And this, of course, Joy, might become another reason why people choose Portugal as a place to retire to. This isn't in the YouTube videos yet, is it? Like retire to Portugal because of the work of Joy Amelie and others. But it could be, couldn't it? It could be. This is like, wow, this is the work that's going on in Portugal. I think I would like to spend the rest of my years there and connect with a community of this kind. Can you see that?
I can, and I would also love other places to spread this, right?
Yes,
So we
yes, yes.
hope to do something that's not unique, and could be replicated elsewhere. So, and I think, people getting older, children moving to other countries, and care options right now are very limited. They're either very expensive
Yes,
and
yes.
only accessible for a few. Um, and the healthcare system is overburdened
Mm,
sometimes.
mm.
So, how do we create support so that we're helping out both agencies and each other?
And those trends, if you like, don't look like they're going to change anytime soon, do they? They're going to
Mhm.
exacerbate and deepen as challenges for humanity, I think, and where we live in this part of the world for sure. Joy, thank you so much. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you think people should know while I have you
Oh,
here?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, we need help. We
Oh,
are a
good. Okay. How
volunteer
can we? How can we help?
organization. Yes. So, if and you don't have to be in Setúbal, you can be anywhere in Portugal. We need help with someone who's fluent with social media.
Okay.
We would love to engage younger people as part of that, because we've very much believe in intergenerational interactions, someone who knows WordPress, and also people who are good at event planning and calendaring, because we want to have a regular offerings like once a month, and we just need some help with that.
So we're talking about like a tech savvy bit of project management, but to build awareness and to be able to do that logistically as well as technically.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And as you said, they don't need to be part of the community as it stands at the moment. They could do this remotely for you.
They absolutely could. Yep.
Very good. Anything else that is worthy of mention? I absolutely love what you've done, what you're doing, and thank you so much for making some time to talk to us. It's been hugely inspiring to me, and it will be to others. And I want to do something locally myself to complement what Amelie's doing up the road. Here in our little town of San Martino de Porto. Anything else come to mind that we can share before we go, or should we go and enjoy the rest of this beautiful life that we've chosen here in Portugal?
Yes, so we should vamos bem, live well, go well.
Yes.
And it's truly been an honor, and thank you so much
It's a pleasure.
for all of this.
Yeah, and I hope we'll talk again and check in on how things are developing. There's the website, Vamos Bem, go well, .pt, importantly. It's in Portugal, everybody, .pt as the domain there. Thank you so much, Joy, and lots of love to you and everybody working on the project over there in Setúbal.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you very much. Bye for now.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to